I'm seeing it better. Yeah.
Oh, how Captiva made him feel. And so it's called After the Storm. It's got a rainbow and a few other things overlooking the water. Anyway, nice.
Good.
John, are you in North Carolina?
Not yet. Leaving Thursday.
Oh, where are you?
I'm in Captiva.
Captiva, the wonderful place.
Nice and warm. Got some rain, about 5 inches here.
That's what I heard. How'd it go?
Everything was flooded, the same spots that you'd expect.
Well, consistency at least has some benefits, I guess.
Well, you're in a great mood this morning, Linda. I love it.
Yeah,
What's going on?
really chirpy.
Oh, it's my birthday. I'm 73 today.
Oh, good
There you
you.
have it.
Yes.
Well, happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you.
John, you said we got five. This is John. How you doing? Good morning.
Good. How are you?
Good. I was out of town, but I heard on the news last night that Sanibel got 11 inches, they were saying.
Sanibel got 15, they said at the last call on the west side, east side. They got hammered. Most of the rain came in the early morning, but still pretty flooded when the sun came up. But Sanibel really got a lot of rain.
Wow.
Do you know if anybody thought to take pictures for our project, our stormwater project?
I thought about it, but I didn't want to wade through the waters.
Yeah. Would have been that much, huh?
Yeah, it was quite a bit in a short period of time.
Yeah, no, that's a lot for an afternoon squall, or no, it might have been part of a system.
It was early morning, probably starting at 2 to 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's kind of
rare. It was. This is Tony. Yeah, I live on Sanibel, and it was from 2 to 3 in the morning. It came down in buckets and went right up through daylight and then beyond. And I think that Periwinkle got hammered. You know, the drive there was flooded. But West Gulf, where I was, we had one little flooded spot. But other than that, it wasn't. I mean, it was a crap load of rain, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Wasn't good for the tourists who were there on Saturday and Sunday, but you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
At least it was August and the kids were back in school, so it made it a little bit easier to take.
Yeah.
Everybody talk at once here.
Good morning, Dave.
It's 9 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 12th meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. The first thing we do is see if we have a quorum. I know we do, but I'm just going to go through the attendance. Bruce McDonald, he's not here. You know, I think he's on vacation or in Canada. Sandy Stillwell Youngquist, she's not here yet. Marguerite Maville, she is in Germany and she won't be able to attend today. It's that time of year. Ken Suarez.
Here.
He's here. John Wade, he is not here. Michael Bennett, I think he's out of the country. John Rosen.
Here.
Linda Laird. She is here.
It's
here, David.
It's her birthday.
My birthday.
Sandy is here. I see her now. John Jensen is here.
Yeah.
Tony Lappy is here. And David Mintz is here. So we definitely have a quorum. The first thing we do is everyone taking a look at the minutes from the July meeting, and do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Lynn. Any discussion, any amendments to the minutes that anyone's seen? I have not seen any. You were well done. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye, please.
aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? None opposed. Great. The next thing on the agenda, by the way, we have Jay Brown on the screen because he's a chair of a number of committees and will be making reports and so we will try to have people who are chairing committees on the screen going forward. Tony Lappy, I know that you're involved in some medical issues, so I moved you up on the agenda. I'm not sure there's anything to report with respect to the nominating committee today. But you're up there. So Tony, do you have anything to add?
No, right now, we're still taking Ken and I talked a little bit. You're waiting for some more people to apply, I guess, and fill out the necessary information. And I think that, I don't know if anybody's talked to Captiva Cruises or not. Remember was saying something about maybe wanting to be on the board or not. So I'll reach out to him when I get some time there, okay? But
Okay.
thanks for moving me up. Yeah, things are going well. I just got to go to therapy at 10 o'clock today, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss, get a small report in anyhow. That's about it, David.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks.
First report we have is from Sergeant Rich Steltman from the Sheriff's Office. Sergeant, I see you're here.
Hi, David. Yeah, first I'd like to thank the panel for allowing Chris and Christine share updates the last couple of meetings. I appreciated that. Just a couple quick things that I'm going to go over, just a couple points. The first thing, a couple weeks ago, we had a couple car break-ins on Captiva. And it was a teenage visitor from out of state decided to go looking for unlocked doors on cars and wound up stealing some things. And however, thanks to video cameras, and we've always stressed on the panel that folks make sure that if they don't have video cameras, to get them. And if they do, make sure that their batteries are charged and that they're working correctly, because that helped us. We were able to identify and apprehend the teenager and bring them to justice. Deputies Chris and Christine did an outstanding job working that case, and they were able to get identified and get them apprehended. But it's just another reminder about the security cameras, but also on this island, to make sure people feel that they're on an island, that they're going to be safe or their property not touched. But we get visitors that do come from out of state or out of town, and we just want to remind your viewers that make sure that their car doors are locked and that there's no valuables left in your cars. That we feel that's important. It's also another point I'd like to make is roadside parking. We had an incident last week where somebody was parked off the side of the road, and another car that was driving southbound sideswiped that car and caused it to flip over. So right there on Captiva Drive, about a mile from Blind Pass. So it's another reminder, it's an ordinance. You can't park your car off the side of the road. And that's one of the examples of why, because accidents do happen. And so I just want to remind your viewers that there's no roadside parking on Captiva. But other than that, if there's any questions, I'm here, and just let me know.
Are there any other questions for the sergeant?
I do. Speaking of parking, Sergeant, I understand now inside the resort, Southeast has obtained their their immobilization and towaway permit through Lee County. Do you understand that correctly?
I haven't officially heard that yet. I know that they were in the process of getting one. If they might have gotten one, I haven't officially gotten word that they have yet.
Okay, is there any way that you could follow up on that for us? I know that a couple of weeks ago, I think you checked and you said they were still waiting for their permit to come through. And if they do obtain it, there are some, I've read through the ordinance that they have to follow. How could the panel or even us inside the resort receive a copy of their permit and what's required? I'm sure that it's a public information issue, but we would appreciate obtaining a copy of it.
Okay. I'll find out for you.
Okay, and for the folks that are present and some of the participants that are not on the panel, if you haven't been inside the resort, they are erecting signs that are towaway zone signs. I think they've bought a total of like 75 of them. So they're literally all scattered all over the place. And so everywhere you go, there's on your property, there is a towaway zone sign. I'm not exactly sure if it meets the qualifications under the ordinance. That's why I'd like to obtain the ordinance to see if there's any caveats or variances from the permit that allow them to put these signs up. But I read the ordinance pretty thoroughly, and the signs don't qualify, but they do look official, and everything else about the sign qualifies. So they may have been exempted from certain language on the sign to get away with it. And it wouldn't surprise me if the county allowed them to. So, but everybody needs to be aware that they will, if you're parked and you're not supposed to be there, they'll boot your vehicle. So very, very friendly atmosphere out there for a family resort.
Are there any other questions for Sergeant Zeltman? Seeing none, we will move on to the main event, which is Jeff Powell from the Captiva Fire Department.
Good morning, David. I don't know that I would consider this the main event. It looked like your agenda had more important items, but thank you either way. We'll keep it fairly short today. Hopefully I'll bring some good news, but I'm sure everybody's seen that storm is now Tropical Storm Erin, expected to become a major hurricane in the next 7 to 9 days. Currently, they're expecting it to pass kind of the East Coast and then go up into the Atlantic. So at the current time, it is not a major concern for us, but it is 7 to call it 10 days out. So things could change, but early guidance is showing that it should be a non-issue for us. So we will not be providing, normal updates unless it does look like it's something for us to worry about. Along with that, I think I mentioned the last meeting, but we have the hurricane guides that the county produces, big paper form magazine here at the station. If anybody wants to stop and pick one of those up, feel free. We have a whole bunch of copies here at the station that anybody can get anytime. Last item with hurricanes, we do have, which I have also mentioned, our high water vehicle should be being completed sometime this month and be in service when and if we have another flooding event or hurricane type situation on the island. So that'll be a big resource for us out here as well as on Sanibel to assist them as needed. I mentioned at the last meeting that we had the structure fire on the island a couple weeks ago. Just wanted to confirm with everybody that that cause of that was the battery charger that was plugged into their golf cart. These are common occurrences in structure fires. People use the battery tenders on cars while they're gone. They'll use them on golf carts, all kinds of things. And that is the device that failed and caused that fire. So I know all those companies will lead you to believe that's what you're supposed to do when you lock up your house and leave for a few months. But they have been known also to cause more harm than good. So just make sure if you're using those types of situations, they are supervised. You have somebody come in and checking all the time. You have cameras, smoke detectors, whatever it may be that you should have in your home. And then lastly, just touching on what Sergeant Zeltman mentioned, he's right. We've had 4 motor vehicle accidents in the last couple of weeks alone. So one of them was a rollover that he spoke of due to a car parked on the side of the road, a vehicle versus a motorcycle. We had a driver had a cardiac arrest and crashed their vehicle, and then we just had a golf cart rollover the other day. So not sure what's going on, but apparently the roads have become a little treacherous out here lately. So everybody, please be careful. If you have golf carts, make sure whoever's driving them is trained and licensed and whatever the law allows. And just be careful. There's been a lot of pedestrians on the road, and as he said, people parking on the side of the road. So just be careful while you're out there. I'm open to any questions, David.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for the fire chief?
No.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jeff.
Next on the agenda, I see John Wade has joined us. Welcome, John. John, maybe you'd like to introduce, what a great name, Brighton Hurd. And maybe you'd like to introduce him to the panel, and then the two of you can decide how to present the CEPD report.
Brighton's with us. I didn't see him on the list. I was wondering, oh, there he is. Okay. Hey, Brighton. Everyone, if you haven't met him already, he's our new general manager of the CEPD. He started in May, and he comes to us all the way from California. He has an environmental background where he could probably tell you a little bit more about his previous experience, but we found him to be fully qualified. He is a big part of the changes that are going on with us, and we decided yesterday at our meeting that he should probably start participating in the CCP meetings to just get to know everybody and give you guys his perspective of his day-to-day activities. So with that, I'll hand it over to Brighton.
Welcome, Brighton. Please take as much time as you would like to introduce yourself to the panel and the community, and then give us a report on what's happening with beach renourishment.
Thank you. I appreciate the warm welcome. I'm happy to be here. Just to clarify, I did come here from California, but I'm not a Californian. You'll probably notice my accent is pretty Southern. I'm a Louisiana native. I lived in Baton Rouge for most of my life, went to LSU. I was in the wetland mitigation industry my entire career prior to this position. So I have a lot of experience in natural habitat restoration, mostly all on the private side. So I'm new to the public sector, but picking it all up quickly and running with it. So we are getting ready to kick off this beach renourishment project that I'm really excited about. We should be laying pipe on the beach within about the next week and a half. They'll start at Turner Beach, and they should start pumping sand by September 4th. We anticipate it to take about 60 days if there are no weather delays, and that would complete the project at the beginning of November.
Okay, and I think John has reported before, but you're going to be not only extending the beach, but also building dunes and dune plants. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. We'll be restoring the dunes and replanting them as well.
Okay, and when do you think it would be complete by?
The entire project, I would imagine, will be complete by mid-November. The plantings may extend out a little further than that.
I have a question.
Yes.
David, we can't hear you. You're on mute if you're talking to us.
I was just going to ask, do you just have a report on the finances associated with the beach renourishment at this point? I know John had talked about you making as great an effort as possible to get as much money to support the beach renourishment. And I'm just curious whether or not we have a report on that.
We are still working through that. We're waiting for the sand surveys to be completed right now so that we know total volumes, and that'll allow us to estimate the total cost of the project. But Joan may be able to speak to it further than I can.
John, do you want to just give a brief review?
Sure. So with regard to our apportionment, we are finishing up our tax roll as we spent most of the meeting in yesterday. If everyone is not aware of that process, you might want to watch the meeting for yesterday. But just to give you a brief lowdown, we are having our budgetary, preliminary or tentative budget hearing on September 8th at 5 p.m. That is for public discourse to discuss the final budget and any new proposed millage rates for the ad valorem taxes. And then our final hearing will be on September 12th to adopt any approved budget and millage rate going forward. The actual tax assessment, getting back to your original question for cost on the actual beach renourishment, the tax assessment will not be assessed until the following year, 2026 tax roll, just simply because we could not make the dates. The dates for the tax roll have to be submitted and approved, as you guys are aware, by late September. And we still, because of the delays in the renourishment, we have no idea where we're at with the costs, and we haven't even finished up funding because Tallahassee didn't close out their financial budget until the last week of June this year. So because of that, we are still working with the state to secure additional funding for Helene and Milton. That is still up in the air. They did earmark over $620 million for disaster recovery, for disaster zones. The parameters of that funding are still being worked out. So the short answer is that we do not know what we're getting for Helene and Milton. With regard to the Ian funding, we have established a cost share interlocal agreement with the county for their cost share, which is similar to the 21 renourishment at it's about 20% cost share. And we are speaking with the county commissioners as we right now about getting some additional funding from some general reserves that have yet to be identified. We have a $13.7 million deposit that just came in about 6 weeks ago from the DEP, which is going to be very tremendously helpful to this year's beach renourishment. As regard to the costs, we will know more about the costs from Great Lakes, the actual beach renourishment contractor, in about, I'd say, 3 weeks. It'll be estimates based on their latest beach analysis, and then we get the final tally when they're done in late October. Does that help?
Yes.
Yes, hi, Linda.
Hey, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Linda.
First, on the beaches, have they been rebuilding or are they being eaten away?
We're going to find out. They're doing the analysis right now. Between now and the last week of August, you'll see people out there figuring out it. Just from, I don't want to make any claims because I'm just not an expert. It looks like the beaches have grown, particularly as we all know, the southern side of the island had grown tremendously in elevation after Helene and Milton, whereas the village area going northward had some really severe losses. What has happened since then is just, ebbs and flows that I can't really comment on, and we wait for the experts to give us their analysis. We're at right now, the default is 800,000 cubic yards. We anticipate it to be a little bit more, but I can't say. The beach to me looks like it's grown quite a bit in width, but it's really down in elevations.
Brighton, you said that the project's going to start at Turner Beach and move north, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, how is that going to impact the eagle nesting season that's going to begin October 1st inside South Seas?
SCCF is doing all of the permitted activities for us, and I believe they have observers that are stationed in the area to direct heavy equipment out of the way if that nest is active at the moment or if it appears to be bothering them. I'll have to get some clarification from them on exact procedures, but I do know that that concern was raised by FWC quite a while ago, and it seems to have been resolved by the permit.
Yeah, because anytime we do work with heavy equipment there near that nest, and there's observers, and if the observers notice stress with the eagles, they'll halt the work. So I didn't know if there was any danger of that happening during this project, and it could have started. I didn't know why it didn't start. Look, I'm not questioning motives or what the job entails, but to avoid that could have started at the north end moving south. But be it as it may, that's a real possibility as we go forward that could cause delays.
I know that the driver for starting at the south end was due to the relocation of the sea turtle nest. It was a requirement of the FWC permit that to minimize the time that the nests were being moved, it made sense to move the nests on the south end of the island to Sanibel instead of starting at the north end of the island, where they would also need to be moved all the way to Sanibel. That time difference apparently was enough to make FWC decide that they wanted it done in 4 phases and starting at Turner Beach. And again, to go back to the eagle, I just haven't heard that we expect that to be a problematic situation. They seem to have resolved it. Hopefully, coming from California, I'm familiar with these very difficult situations and tiptoeing around usually dozens of species there at a time. But there are usually ways. I'm not sure when the fledglings leave the nest and that sort of thing, or if it's
now. This is mating season that starts October 1st, so and inside the resort we have been the wrath of the county and also the observers. So I would caution everybody that one person, the observer, could literally make the decision to put a stop to the project because of heavy equipment and noise and whatnot. So be aware of it.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing this up. I just missed a call from Kelly Sloan, so I have a few other things to talk to her about, and that'll be one more thing that I can.
There's another gentleman in Lee County that really heads that department up. I don't remember his name, but he is sort of the guy that controls a lot of the code enforcement on work being done near the eagle's nest. So I can get you his name and number. I don't have your contact information, but I can send it through John if you'd like it.
Absolutely. I'd love to see that. And my email address, just for future reference, is beheard@mycepd.com.
Linda, did you have another question?
Yes, that was my 101-year-old mother calling up to wishing me a happy birthday, and it sort of screwed up things. So my apologies. But 2 more questions. One is, do we have a view on the proposed millage rate, or will we see it before the meeting in September? Because that shouldn't be dependent upon this beach renourishment, I would guess.
The millage rate, it has nothing to do with the renourishment.
Right.
Right now, we submit, you'll see your trim proposals that will come in around the next week sometime. I think the county mails them out. We do the maximum trim, because you can't go down up after you submit the proposal. You can only go down, as you may be aware. Our proposed maximum millage rate is 0.5. right now.
Okay, so
We're currently at 0.4128.
yeah, okay, thank you. And the other thing, do we have any plans if we get hit by a hurricane while we're renourishing? No,
Linda, I got to tell you, you know, we
I just
had our
wondered.
last meeting. Our last meeting was a little bit dynamic, in that we did have Great Lakes on in the meeting and Aptum, and they told us they were going to do everything they could, but there were no good answers. I've been pretty upset about the delays. They've backed us all the way into the very last day of the actual contract, and you know, the board, it seems like, you know, we're at their mercy at this point. They have a duty to complete the job under very specific timeline, and they're inside that window, but they've left no room for any sort of contingencies with the hurricane. And it's upsetting to me, because the whole idea of the contract was to avoid any potential hurricane risk, and that's clearly not the case.
And I assume if there's acts of God, AKA a hurricane, then it gets pushed out, and that's just the way it is too. It's not a problem.
Yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are hurricane emergency plans, but they are in the hands of the
No.
You know, coastal engineers and the contractor.
No,
It's
no,
not
no,
something that the CEPD can. They're not going to manage any sort of emergency or make any decisions on that. That'll be the contractor.
Okay, thank you, John.
And real quick, with regard to the millage, we are having a workshop on the 28th of August to go over the budget, if anybody's interested in participating.
As an observer of CEPD, I think the addition of Brighton and the addition of John Wade has made a big difference. We're getting straight answers. We're getting a sense of how difficult this is and how they're trying to manage it. And I think the community appreciates that, both Brighton and John.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dave.
Okay. Any other questions for CEPD? Okay, we will now move to SCCF. I think Matt is with us.
Hey everyone. Good to be back. It's been a while. I have a brief update. It's kind of a slow time of year for us, at least. We're midway through nesting season, as was identified. That's been going pretty strongly. We had a really successful bird colony on the causeway that I'm sure everyone saw driving across, and turtle nesting is going well. Water is doing basically what you would expect it to be doing at this time of year. We're not connected to the lake at all right now. They're not giving us any water, but the watershed's providing enough to support the estuary. I'm sure David can give a more in-depth about the recent update about the recent South Seas decision that we saw last week. And overall, I would just, I know we're all have eyes on that storm that's moving in. It looks like it's hopefully going to turn, as was mentioned previously. But as last weekend showed, we're really not in a situation where the water or the islands can hold a lot of water, so it doesn't take a storm to cause some of that flooding. So just be cognizant of that as you're watching the seasonal rains come through. Know that we don't have the same woody species that we did 5 years ago that could soak up a lot of that water as it came onto the island. But other than that, not too much going on, thankfully, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Are any questions for SCCF? Thank you, Matt, and welcome back. Okay, the next thing on the agenda says 9:30, and coincidentally, it is 9:30. The next thing on the agenda says County Code Enforcement Update. I have very little, but I do want to just mention, we spoke to the Department of Transportation of Lee County. They are now aware that the Twin Waters stretch still has a great deal of sand on the shoulder, not to mention vegetation growing over the shoulder, almost from the Jensen's curve to the curve at the next curve at the next southern curve. And they are going to be reviewing that and cutting back the vegetation and sweeping off the sand off the shoulder, because at this point, it's literally impossible for anybody to walk or ride a bicycle on the Gulf side of the shoulder on the Twin Water stretch. That's number one. Number two is, if people can remind folks, and we'll put out some reminder, there's a 7-day rental minimum on Captiva except for hotels or resorts. So if you're a hotel or resort, there's no 7-day minimum. But for people who are renting their homes, there's a 7-day minimum under the Captiva Community Plan. And people sometimes forget that, or some people, houses are sold and purchased and people don't know that there is a 7-day minimum for rentals. So we will figure out how to remind people of that fact, because we don't want to turn Captiva into a 2-day rental party community. And then the third thing is just on the turtle lighting. And I think, Jay, you wanted to just give a quick report on what the final results were in terms of the turtle lighting code enforcement.
Yeah, David, thank you. Just to refresh everybody, we have had this season an unusually large number of people being cited for violations of the turtle light code. A very dramatic increase in the number of citations. I myself was cited. Our home is built with turtle glass and, entirely to code for turtle lights. We were cited for casting light on turtle nests. We had a number of discussions with Paula Quidzilla, I think is her last name. I don't probably have that quite right. About what to do with the fact that we had lights visible from, the beach. And she suggested that we increase the film level on our windows to only 15% light transmission through the windows. So we did that. She inspected our home after completing that project and got back to me and said that lights were still visible from my house at the beach, even after the application of the film. But she felt that our house was, no longer in violating the code. And I think what's problematic here is I don't think we have a clear-cut definition, what's a code violation and what isn't a code violation. Best as I can tell, the way the code is currently being enforced is, being written and enforced is, if lights can be seen coming from your house at the beach, you're violating the code. Whereas historically, the code language was your lighting has to be illuminating the turtle nest. So, of course, a big difference between illuminating a nest and, lights being visible from the beach. So the best I can tell what's going on now is she feels you're doing everything you possibly can to lower the level of light reaching, the nest, you're going to be all right. But if you're not doing everything you possibly can, she's probably going to continue to cite you. I invited her to come to a panel meeting and explain how the code was being enforced. She declined to do that, but said if we all wanted to submit some written questions to her, she would answer the questions for us. So that's where this issue stands for me, David. I don't know what experience other people, are having. If it's similar to mine, I know Ken, you're aware of a lot of issues with this, inside the resort area. I don't know if you have anything to add. I've said.
I've actually had a couple of my clients have to sit before the hearing examiner from the issue. It's especially complicated when you have renters in these homes that are on the Gulf, and they're not cognizant or aware or even care, about the lighting and illuminating from the house. So it gets a bit frustrating for everybody, and the threatening letters that the owners get doesn't help either. Obviously, the vegetation loss from the 3 storms has caused this issue, and I think that once we get some good vegetation growth back, along with the renourishment of the beach, some of this will be abated. But it's really unfortunate that Paula has been great to work with on this issue. She has called me personally and given me warning of when she's coming out.
Right.
I think, to me, the way I've handled it, I've become her best friend, and that's probably what we all need to do if you're having this issue until we get out of turtle nesting season. But now they are still going to inspect during beach renourishment, believe it or not, as if nothing has happened. So just because the beach is being renourished does not mean that they are not going to come out and look for.
I think the issue, we've had this now for 2 meetings. I think the issue is that we need from the county, we're a very cooperative community and we want to protect the turtle nesting. I think what we need from the county for people who have existing homes and people who are going to be renovating or building new homes, we need to have some clear guidelines as to what is code, what complies with the code and what doesn't. And so that people aren't surprised or aren't unintentionally doing things that violate the code. So I was hoping this issue would go away, but what I'm going to do, if it's all right with everybody, is reach out to the Department of Community Development and the code enforcement and ask them if they can put together for us a clear statement of what they would expect from us and from the people who are building new homes and renovating their existing homes and people who are renting their homes, and see if we can get some clear standards so people know what to expect and what not to expect. Is that all right?
My impression, David, of what's going on now is the code is written such that if you can see light from the beach, you're in violation. But I think they're probably realizing that that's a totally unreasonable, code.
Well, it's not just that though, Jay. I mean, even some of the colored bulbs. I mean, in our minds, if you've been on the island long enough, you go, okay, if I get a yellow light bulb, that should suffice. That's not the case anymore. I mean, they're actually saying, no, you have to have the yellow light, then it has to be shielded. And so you have all this confusion going on with the owners that really want to do right by this, but they don't understand fully what the code and what they should be doing. So it is a problem. And I think the more education we put out there for the people that are along the Gulf Coast, the better off it'll be. But it is, David, when you do speak with them, it is extremely confusing as to what people are being cited for. I mean, even if you have a tree that's shielding light, if you can almost see through the tree, they're going to cite you for it. So it's a bit of a mess.
I will see what I can do. I don't know. I don't want to put Matt on the spot here, but does SCCF have any opinion on this issue?
Apart from what's directly laid out in the LEA plan and the code, there's not like a handy one-pager that can help you out with this, but that might be something that I can talk to Kelly about putting together for homeowners, or something that at least provides a little bit more clarity.
Okay, if you can talk to Kelly, and I will speak to the code enforcement people and see if we can put together some sort of protocol or some sort of document that'll help to end this confusion, which seems to exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get with her and see what we can come up with.
Okay, all right. Next thing, anything else on this subject? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is County South Seas redevelopment, rezoning, and legal update. I'm not going to take as much time as I have in the past because I know Protect Captiva, CCA, the panel, and SCCF has been putting out regular updates. But as people know, that the rezoning hearing, that the application that South Seas submitted to the county to increase density on building heights on South Seas, to build their 2 hotels with 435 rooms, and to build 193 condos, and to have some buildings as high as 20 feet taller than existing structures on Captiva or South Seas. They presented that to the hearing examiner. We had 52 witnesses before the hearing examiner explaining why that's not a very good idea for Captiva and why it violated the code and the plan. The hearing examiner recommended approval. It went to the Board of County Commissioners on August 6th. There was a hearing before the Board of County Commissioners. The community from Sanibel and Captiva explained to the Board of County Commissioners why they opposed this increase in density and building heights on South Seas. And notwithstanding their presentation, which, by the way, I thought the community and particularly the attorneys for the various organizations did a very compelling and convincing job. But notwithstanding that, unsurprisingly, the vote was 3-1 in favor of the application. Commissioner Mullica was not present, and the 1 no vote was from Commissioner Ruane. At the close of the hearing, what the commissioners basically said is that this is my take on it, but you can go and look at the video. What they basically said, South Seas will create more development on Captiva, and greater development and new development on Lee County will produce increasing employment and tax revenues, and therefore we're going to support it. It was clear from what the commissioner said that for them, what was most important was the increased development and economic growth. And it was clear that that took precedent over any concern for current or future residents or the islands themselves of Captiva or Sanibel. I will tell you, the board never even responded to the public's testimony about public safety, traffic and evacuation concerns, the environmental impacts, or even the inadequate capacity of the FGUA sewer plant to handle the increased processed wastewater. The commissioners failed to address the Captiva plan, which limited density to 112 units because of the historic development pattern. There was a series of what we felt were due process violations because the South Seas property owners were not permitted to fully participate in the hearings before the hearing examiner. They didn't have the right to cross-examine or to present their own witnesses. And so there were a whole slew of what people feel were violations of the process and of the plan and of the code. And my understanding at this point is that the people on South Seas, Sanibel and Captiva, are seriously considering filing an appeal of the Board of County Commissioners' decision. It's called a writ of certiorari. It gets submitted within 30 days to it's complicated, to a circuit court judge who acts as an appellate judge, deciding whether the Board of County Commissioners made a proper decision based on the evidence that was before them. And that appeal or writ of certiorari gets filed within 30 days of August 6th. I am fairly confident that that is going to happen. So this decision of the Board of County Commissioners will be under appeal. The second thing is that people remember the DOA hearing, which is that the claim by the community that the code amendments that started this whole thing, that created a special exemption for South Seas from building heights and density, that is under appeal. The briefs are about to be completed, and that will go to the appellate courts to decide whether or not these code changes were lawful to begin with. It's the code changes that allowed for the South Seas to apply for the greater heights and the greater density. And if those code changes are invalidated, it creates a whole new problematic set of issues. As everybody knows, the circuit court, Judge Schenko, ruled that South Seas, that the settlement agreement between Lee County and CCA back in 2003 is a valid and enforceable agreement, limiting a density on South Seas to 912 units. When the county and South Seas appealed that ruling under Florida law, when a municipality or a government agency appeals a decision of the district court and they're the appellant, that there's an automatic stay that goes into effect on the decision of the circuit court. But because it may be imminent, though not immediately imminent, that South Seas will see building permits for their project that will take it above 912, which is the ruling of Judge Schenko, which is limited to 912 on South Seas. The CCA has filed a motion before Judge Schenko to lift the stay and therefore to have the 912 limitation immediately enforceable against the county. There's a hearing before Judge Schenko on September 3rd, where the CCA is requesting that that automatic stay be lifted. But notwithstanding whether that stay gets lifted or not, the circuit court decision limits density on South Seas to 912 units. And their approved application takes it up to like 1,238 units or something. So under the circuit court decision, they can't build, which was just approved. And letters are going to the county and to the South Seas advising them that if they build or attempt to build in violation of the circuit court decision, that they basically take the risk, because there's law in Florida that if you're aware that there's an appeal pending or you're aware of a decision that prohibits you from building, and you build in any case, and you lose the appeal or the circuit court decision stands, you have assumed the risk, and you will have to demolish those buildings at your expense. So I am reasonably confident that nobody's going to be building anything on South Seas until such time as these appeals are heard and decided. I believe this should all happen within the coming year. So that's where we stand at this point. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. It's a little bit complicated, but to summarize it, the Board of County Commissioners' decision is being appealed. The DOA case on the code is under appeal. The circuit court decision limiting South Seas to 912 is being appealed by the county and South Seas, and those briefs are being completed, and we should get a date for oral argument on that. So it's going to be this is far from over. Where the community is sitting is, we think, sitting in a good position because we have a circuit court decision that limits development to 912 units, period. Any questions? I hope I made that as clear as possible, but there's a lot cooking.
David, how is the legal fund coming?
We have raised about $1.5 million from the community. We have contributions that run from $3 a donation to $100,000 donations, and everywhere in between. We have spent we're approaching about 1.2 million, a little more between 1.1 and 1.2. We have raised 1.5 more or less. We expect that when this is all said and done, we'll probably have to raise another $500,000. The community has been extremely generous. Every time we ask to increase the Protect Captiva legal fund, we get contributions coming in. So we encourage people to contribute to the legal fund if they can. Jay, I think that people have been terrific.
Yeah, they certainly have, but it sounds like though the job is pretty far from being done here.
Right, right. I would say another $500,000
Another 500,000 will.
the next
or-
couple of weeks. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Any other questions?
David, there's one question from the audience.
Yeah.
I was on Captiva for a portion of our week 30 timeshare, which was July 25 to 28, and did not see any public notice signs on the South Seas property. Is there a requirement for public notice signs to be posted? I work as a planner in a municipality on the east coast of Florida, and we have a public notice requirement for properties wishing to change their zoning, whether applicant initiated or city initiated. I was looking through the Lee County Land Development Code, and public notice requirements were not very clear, but it states public notice is required, mail and sign posting. I did see a sign posted on the Rauschenberg property across from South Seas, but I did not think that this is part of the South Seas proposal. This is minor in comparison to the overall issues, but nonetheless, it is a requirement of the reapproval process.
Yeah, we can check on that. I do remember seeing signs posted prior to the Hex hearing. And when the zoning application was made, I did see them, not just at the Rauschenberg property, but I did see them posted in other places. But I'll talk to, I'll see if I could find out to make sure.
They followed, David, they followed the requirement. They did post the proper signage, and they did mail out the notice to all the individuals inside the resort. So they did comply with the comp plan on notice for zoning changes.
Right. One of the issues, and I don't want to belabor this, but one of the important issues that will be dealt with in the appeal or the writ of certiorari is they treated property owners on South Seas as adjacent property owners, and therefore did not have any rights, anything any more than an adjacent property owner when somebody's seeking to rezone their property. But the property owners on South Seas arguably are not adjacent property owners. They share easements, they share the roadway, they shared open space when they had a PUD or a common development plan that was created in 1973. They allowed clustering of buildings so you could have more open space and you would have clustering in certain other areas. And when you extract 120 acres from this 304 acres of South Seas and say, we're going to let you rezone that separately apart from all the other shared amenities and shared easements and shared roadways and everything else, then you're creating, you're not giving people who are part of that original plan development their due process rights. And that's one of the problems that has occurred. The South Seas owners, other than Timbers and Company, should have been full participants in this application, and they were prohibited from having the right to do that. And that's one of the major issues that's pending, that will be pending on appeal. This is not the South Seas owners, 640 actually property owners on South Seas, not including the timeshares, were not given the right to participate in this hearing, even though they share that property. So we have a situation now where some of the remaining properties on South Seas, once you extract 120 acres of the Timbers property, are now non-conforming because they were originally allowed to be part of a total development where there was clustering and open space. And now we have some remaining properties non-conforming under the Captiva Code. This was a process that arguably should not have been allowed to take place in the manner that it did. And that's one of the fundamental issues that a court of appeals or a district judge acting as an appellate judge will have to deal with. Okay, any other?
There's one other question from the audience. Can the community panel get South Seas to pay for community panel funds if they lose?
Read that again, please.
Can the community panel get South Seas to pay for community panel funds if they lose? I'm not sure what funding is being referred to here.
No, I don't, the only thing I could be thinking about, that you could be referring to possibly, which is the next thing on the agenda, is there was a public records request that was made by South Seas to the panel, and we had to retain an attorney to provide, to determine what has to be provided and what does not have to be provided, which we'll talk about in a second. But because we are quasi-public, or because we have sunshine laws that apply to certain aspects of our work, the South Seas had the right to make a public records request, not as broad as they did, but they had a right to do that. And so I don't think there's anything any rights that we have to demand reimbursement from South Seas at this point. South Seas has sued the CCA for claiming that the Judge Schenko's 912 limitations on South Seas includes hotel rooms. And their claim is that the 912 does not include hotel rooms, and that Judge Schenko didn't decide that. CCA thinks that's a completely frivolous lawsuit filed by South Seas without any merit, and they will seek attorney's fees and costs from South Seas when that case is resolved. So I think that if the question is, if I understand the question, it's CCA that'll be seeking attorney's fees and sanctions actually from South Seas with respect to that lawsuit. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Anything else from the panel? Okay. Just in terms of the public records request, we had approved a long time ago to retain an attorney to help us manage the public records request from South Seas. And I just want to let the panel know that we're going to pay that bill, but the bill at the end of the day so far, well, when I say so far, it's the final bill, came to $12,020 from the attorneys who represented us and basically limited what our obligations were under the statute with respect to how we had to respond to that. So I mean, we have to pay it, but I'm letting people know that the bill was $12,000. We had put down a retainer, I think, of $3,500. We owe the difference, which I think is $8,000. I'm assuming we're going to pay it, but I just didn't know. I thought we should bring it to everybody's attention if anybody had any thoughts about that.
Well, what other option would you have had?
We didn't have any other option, but yeah, no one knew what they had to do and what they didn't have to do, what they had to produce, whether they had to produce their personal emails and their personal texts. And I think the attorney for the panel did a good job in making sure that people were not overly burdened by this information request. My understanding is that on the city of Sanibel, they've had something like 37,000 or tens of thousands of documents they had to turn over. The same information request that was made to the panel was also made to the city of Sanibel, and they are going to bill South Seas, I think, in the tens of thousands of dollars for the amount of work it's been taking them to produce the documents that South Seas has requested from the city of Sanibel. My understanding also, as we have John Wade and Brighton here, my understanding is that a public information request, a public records request was also made of CEPD. I'm assuming that you guys are handling that, and you've retained a counsel for that also.
Yeah, we have counsel. It was addressed last month, and there hasn't been any further engagement on the issue from South Seas.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same is true here. I'm hoping that We produced, I think, over 700 documents to South Seas, all related to our public planning, our community planning work, which is what the sunshine covers, and hopefully that will end this this whole fishing expedition, as I would call it. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the Infrastructure Committee. Mike Bennett is the chair of that committee. He, I believe, is not available, but I did speak to and found out some very important information. I spoke to the city of Sanibel, and I spoke to the Department of Transportation. As everybody knows, there's going to be a resilience project on the Twin Water Stretch, on the Jensen's Curve. And that's going to take place. My understanding is it won't be actually designed and procured in terms of who's going to do that work. It'll probably take a year before that happens. So it could be another year before we see the, I'm sorry for the banging, but there's construction going on my house. But it'll be a year before the resilience project on the Jensen's Curve will take place. It's being funded by federal money from the block grant program. And I think it has to be finally approved by the county. Once it gets approved by the feds, and then it goes to a design, and then it goes to procurement. My understanding is that it is going to happen, but it will take 1 year. The county has received some concerns from people who live on the Twin Water Stretch about the height of that project and whether or not they will still have access to the beach once that project is completed. And my understanding is that it's not going to be a tall project. It's going to be at the road level. The fortification of the road will be not anything that will block people's access or views, but there will be public meetings when that procurement and design takes place. So everybody on the Twin Water Stretch who has property and they want to make sure their views aren't blocked and they have access to the beach, they will have an opportunity to fully understand what's going to be done and how it's going to be done and have input into that project. So I think that all sounded good. The other thing that we were concerned about is the vulnerability of the Captiva roadway, because that's obviously a very vulnerable area. And initially we were told that Sanibel was going to take care of that. And then we spoke to Sanibel and it wasn't clear that they understood that was their responsibility. But as it turns out, that the Captiva project is also now part of the bigger Jensen's Curve project. The money is coming together and the county will be responsible for doing that resilience project at the Captiva area in the same way that we're going to be doing the Jensen's Curve. So even though it will be on Sanibel and they'll be working closely with the city of Sanibel, it will be done by the county and funded by the county. And I think that is good news because, you know, we can fix the Jensen's Curve, but if the area south of Blind Pass Bridge goes out, what good is that? And then finally, there are some funds that have been set aside to refortify some aspects of the Blind Pass Bridge itself. We heard that wasn't going to happen initially, but my understanding is that now is going to happen also, just in those areas that there was some washout during Hurricane Ian. So that's all good news. There's funding from the county for the Jensen's Curve, the Captiva area, and the Blind Pass Bridge, but it will probably not take place for another year. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the Stormwater Committee. Jay and Linda.
I'll handle this report, David. There's not very much to report. At the last panel meeting, I described the meeting that we had with the county and the engineering consultants. that we're going to be doing the project, what the project deliverables were going to be, and so forth. And that I felt it was a very productive kickoff meeting to get the project started. The key issue that emerged from that meeting was the level of involvement that the panel or other representatives of Captiva would have in this project as it progressed. And it was the county's view that this is now a county project and the county's going to manage the project, and the community's involvement will be such that they'll see a final report, on the project when it's completed. We felt that that was probably not the best way to go forward, that they were going to be missing a lot of local knowledge. If they tried to do the project without our involvement. I've made that case with Phil Gilligy, who is the point person from the county running this project. And to date, he's not responded to my request. My main request being that when they have monthly review meetings with the consultants, that members of the panel, and at the very least me as head of the Stormwater Committee, should be sitting in on those meetings. But I've not had a response to him yet, and I suspect, David, it's probably going to take, some effort from you and me going forward to make sure we get the level of input into this project that we want. David, you've gone silent, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to block out the background noise that I have. I heard over the past couple of weeks, there were a lot of surveyors on Captiva, and no one seems to know who those surveyors are, but I knew they were going to do surveying as part of the stormwater project, and to determine elevations of the road.
Right.
So I think at least the minimum, we can find out if the surveyors on Captiva were in part and parcel part of the stormwater project. So maybe we can find that out and see if that is proceeding in the way that we thought it might.
David, I had a closing of Captiva Village Square, and so there were surveyors there, but that was just because I bought the shopping center.
You bought what? I'm sorry,
The
Sandy.
shopping center, so I had surveyors out there along Captiva Drive.
You purchased the shopping center? Is that what you just said?
Yeah,
Which shopping center did you purchase?
where the cantina is.
Okay, the whole shopping center or just half of it?
My half, yeah. So now I'm the proud owner instead of rent, now a big mortgage payment, but yes.
Well, congratulations to the bank, whoever.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, so maybe it was your surveyors. And if that's the case, then that's good to know. Okay. Okay, next thing, and I think we have a fairly important report from Jay on the wastewater committee.
Okay, I'm going to take the panel through a history of the wastewater project, because this has been going on for a number of years, but I think we're reaching a point in the project where it's going to get some renewed life to it. So I want to remind everybody of, the major things that have transpired, in the past on this project, and where it's going in the future. To start off, the project began in probably 2017, when a number of people on the panel became concerned that our septic systems might not be viable long-term on Captiva, and were also likely very important contributors to poor coastal water quality, off the coasts of both Sanibel and Captiva. So that set off a we formed a small group from the panel to pursue what the viability of central sewer would be, as well as other alternatives to try to better manage our wastewater. The first project that was conducted was an engineering project done by the engineering firm TKW, and that was completed in 2018. It was a county-funded study where TKW was charged by the county to look at all the alternative ways that Captiva might dispose of its wastewater, evaluate each of those options, and then come forward with what they thought would probably be the best option. That study was completed in 2018, and we had a public meeting where the results of the project were communicated to the public. I think over 100 property owners attended that meeting. The net result from TKW was they felt that probably the best going forward strategy for managing our wastewater was to have a central sewer system with the processing done by Sanibel's Donax plant. They looked at that option. They looked at expanding the FGA plant, but that was a far more costly path going forward, it was thought at the time, because Donax had excess capacity such that they could handle all of our wastewater without expanding the plant, whereas the FGA plant would have to be expanded at significant cost. They looked at building a wastewater processing site on Captiva, but rejected that idea because there was no plot of land large enough where you could site a processing facility. They looked at a program of over time that we would change our septic systems from conventional septic systems to performance-based systems, whereas the water coming out of the drain fields would be cleaned of all contaminants. That's basically what AWT standard treatment of wastewater means. So they looked at that, and the estimated cost to get everybody to change from conventional sewer to performance-based sewer was higher than what they thought the cost would be of tying in a central sewer system with Donax. So that was the first big project that was done. About the same time that the TKW study was going on, at the request of the panel, FGA management did a study of what would it take to, if we just wanted to focus in on the village area where most of the issues with conventional septic systems were believed to be, if we just provided central sewer service to the village area, what would the total cost of a project like that be? They came out, their proposal was that it would be about $12 or $13 million of total cost, the majority of the cost being to expand the FGA plant to convert their processing to AWT standards, and then also to create a collection system for the village area. So that study was done. It was $13 million total cost. We did not move forward with that because we were still operating under the belief that we could tie into the Donax facility without any significant capacity investment. The next major step was the Tomasco study. David Tomasco was funded by the panel, and the objective of his study was to determine what all the benefits of a central sewer service area would be, and in particular, confirm SCCF's belief that our conventional septic systems were important contributors to poor coastal water quality. Tomasco did his study, and his principal conclusion was that septic systems were not a significant contributor to coastal water issues. The reason being is he did water samples or water table samples from areas around septic systems and compared them to nutrient content of the water table, which was not around septic systems, and saw little or no difference, which led him to believe that the septic systems were probably not important contributors to poor coastal water quality. Tomasco did say, however, though he felt that septic systems were not viable long-term on Captiva. As part of this study, we did numerous soil samples around septic areas, and we found that typically the water table was less than 2 feet below grade for most of Captiva septic systems, which meant that almost any level of sea level rise in the future would cause the septic systems to malfunction because the wastewater, as it's exiting the septic system through the drain field, would not be able to exit the drain field because it's in the water table now. And so his principal conclusion was that septics were not a viable long-term solution for Captiva because they wouldn't function given our kind of soil characteristics and the very shallow depth of our water table. After the Tomasco meeting, we did a large public meeting, presented everything we'd learned to date to the public. Again, that was a very well-attended meeting, I think, with over 100 people attending that meeting at the community house. The next major step after that is we did a straw poll of the community. The straw poll basically asked the community that if the average cost per property of a septic of central sewer was around $30,000, and that there would be long-term funding available so that the annual cost per property owner would be something like $1,500 to $2,000. Are you in favor of the panel pursuing central sewer service? And we had in that straw poll, 50% of property owners responded to it. Of those that responded, 2/3 were in favor of the panel pursuing central sewer service for Captiva. Based on that, the panel decided to continue to move forward with developing central sewer. The next step we felt was to do a strong engineering study which would capture all the costs of doing a central sewer system, and this would be a predicate to creating a municipal taxing district to fund going to central sewer, throughout Captiva. I shouldn't say throughout Captiva, but throughout Captiva that was unsewered, which meant everybody outside of South Seas. So that project was given to the engineering firm Kimley Horn. We went with Kimley Horn because TKW had been acquired by another consulting firm, and Doug Ekman, who was the principal at TKW, responsible for the project when they did our project, had moved over to Kimley Horn. So we gave the project to Kimley Horn. The study was funded by the county. So Kimley Horn designed a complete system for central sewer on Captiva. Basically, the components of the system were we would have a main sewer line running from southeast all along Captiva Drive and then terminating at Turner Beach. This would be a pressurized system with a, I don't remember exactly, it was either a 10 or a 12-inch, main sewer line. Then in the village area, on each side street in the village, we would have gravity systems running down the village streets, which would terminate at the main sewer line. And then all of the individual, these would be gravity-based lines, and then all the individual homes on the side streets would hook up with gravity lines connecting their homes to the gravity lines on the streets. Outside of the village area, where the properties are, the lot sizes are much larger, Kimley Horn had determined it would be more cost effective for each property to have a pressurized property or sewer line connecting the home to the main sewer line going down to Captiva Drive. So that was the basics of the study, the plan that was developed. We had engineering drawings with where all the lift stations would be, and a total project cost estimate of about $20 million. That cost estimate was later moved up about $6 million to $26 million because as we pursued the project further, we realized that just simply terminating the project at Turner Beach wasn't enough to connect to Sanibel, and we were going to have an additional main sewer line running from Turner Beach to the Sanibel Sea Station or Sea Spray lift station. So that bumped the total project cost up to $26 million. So that was the Kimley Horn project. Then at this point, the project moves away from Captiva direction to Sanibel direction. So it now becomes Sanibel's project to determine what does Sanibel have to do to accept the wastewater from Captiva. Are they going to have to make any infrastructure changes? Are there going to be buy-in costs and so forth for Captivans to pay to compensate Sanibel in some way for all of their past investment in creating a central sewer system? So Sanibel wanted to do 3 consulting projects. First project was to determine whether the transmission lines that were running throughout Sanibel would have sufficient capacity to carry Captiva's wastewater. The second study would be, does Sanibel have enough capacity to dispose of processed wastewater presently, or would they have to expand their ability to increase disposal of processed wastewater? And then third was an economic study of what's the total economic impact of handling Captiva's wastewater. So those were the 3 studies they wanted. We got the county to fund all 3 studies. Unfortunately, the start of this project, coincided with the first major hurricane that we had, Ian, and it took Sanibel, because of all the issues with Ian and so forth, took Sanibel, quite a bit longer to complete these 3 consulting studies than what we would have liked. But at this point, they're now completed. The main findings are first, Tetra Tech is the engineering firm that did Sanibel's study of their existing transmission lines. Tetra Tech studied the transmission lines and came to the conclusion that those transmission lines did not have enough capacity to carry Captiva's wastewater. and that parallel transmission lines, sewer lines, would have to run through most of the parts of Sanibel to get our wastewater to Captiva. This was completely unexpected up until this point in time. Everybody always assumed, given how much larger Sanibel's population is than ours, that that the existing sewer lines would be adequate to carry our wastewater. That was not the case, not found to be the case, and the principal reason being that a lot of Sanibel property owners are using the sewer system to rid themselves of excess stormwater during periods of heavy storm events. So you've got stormwater running through Sanibel's entire sewer system, which is eating up a lot of the capacity that those systems have. So that was the net finding of the first study. The second study they did was, do they have enough capacity to dispose of wastewater after it's been processed? That study was also done by Tetra Tech, and the conclusion was that they did not, Sanibel did not have enough capacity to dispose of processed wastewater. Their current system is to irrigate the Sanctuary Golf Course, and then they also share a deep water injection well with the Island Water Association. So, but they found that for the same reason that the pipes were not adequate in capacity, because of all this utilization of the sewer system to rid themselves of excess stormwater, that a new deep well injection system would have to be created. I'm sorry, I'm getting lawn care going on next to me here. So they looked at 6 different alternative sites and came up with the lowest cost site being a deep water injection well at the Donax facility, which would be a cost of $25 million. So the result of that 2 studies is it looks like we have about $40 million of cost to have Sanibel accept our wastewater that we never anticipated having when this project started out. Sanibel then moved on to their third study, which is the economic impact study. This study found that Sanibel would need to raise its rates about 4% per year over time to keep up with the cost of transmission, but that Sanibel's costs would not increase any because they were accepting, our wastewater. So the Raftelis study found that Captiva would not need to buy in to use existing capacity, and that Captiva should not pay different rates than what Sanibel property owners would have. So the net result of the 3 Sanibel studies is about $40 million of additional cost versus what we thought we had as all along as we were doing this study. So this leaves us with a key issue being that the total cost of a sewer system for Sanibel, rather than for Captiva, rather than being $25 million, is probably closer to $65 million, which is probably a totally unreasonable cost to ask Captiva residents, to pay. That's roughly triple what we told them it would cost when we did the straw poll. So we're going to have to find a way to get those costs reduced very dramatically for this project to go forward. And that perhaps could occur through getting significant public funding for a wastewater system, for our wastewater system, which may be possible. There's a lot of concern in Florida about coastal water quality, and it's a good environment to try to get public funding for a project such as ours. So that might be one opportunity. Another would be looking again at Sanibel property owners using the sewer system to dispose of stormwater, and that's really what's creating the need for the expansion of Sanibel's piping system and the expansion of their ability to get rid of processed wastewater. So maybe a lot of that cost should be borne by persons other than Captiva property owners. The second major issue we have, I think, with this project is the whole South Seas issue, where those people in Captiva that object to central sewer, their main point of objection is a belief that central sewer will ultimately lead to unwanted development on Captiva. And, we have this whole issue going on with South Seas now, where our existing codes and land use, policy history have not protected us from increased development. So I think this is going to have to be resolved also. So the next step now is Sanibel would like to create a working group to advance this project further. Would be comprised of people from Sanibel and people from Captiva trying to work through these issues. The Sanibel City Council remains very supportive of a Captiva central sewer system and is supportive of having a working group. We, of course, will be part of that working group. From our side, it'll be me, David Mintz, and Mike Bennett. So that's where we are right now. It's been a long, very long project. A lot has been learned along the way. But I think the cost issues are going to be, very difficult to overcome. But on the other hand, I think we've got to face the fact that long-term conventional septic systems aren't going to work on Captiva after we get any level of sea level rise. So that's kind of an overview of the history of the project, bring you all up to date. The next step is to form this working group with Sanibel and see if we can start moving this project again.
I have a question, Jay. If we were looking at how many homes the central sewer system would support, let's say it was $40 million we had, is it 1,000 homes? So it comes out to 40,000 per home. Did I do it right?
No, it was 30,000 per home before, and we're about triple the cost now. So I think you could assume 80 or 90,000 a home now.
80K per home. And
now, I'd need to go through those numbers again. It's been a while since, but I think that's probably in the ballpark.
Close is good. And when these performance systems that have no pollutants coming out of the end, are they really no pollutants, or do we have we still have the issues with phosphorus and nitrogen coming out of them?
Yeah, I think that needs to be studied again. In the past, AWT standards met nothing harmful coming out of them to coastal water quality, but I don't think SCCF would accept that probably. So that needs to be resolved also.
What do they tend to cost about 50,000 per home?
No, if you're going to AWT treatment standard in conjunction with increasing capacity anyway, it's a relatively minor part of the total capacity expansion cost.
No, so like if somebody has a regular house in the village and they decide to go to
a performance-based system,
yeah,
it's twice as much.
Twice as much. Like How much?
Instead of 15,000, 30,000.
So it would be 30,000 versus actually 90,000 per home.
Yeah, yes, but the same, just because you've made them AWT septic systems, they're still not going to function when you have sea level rise.
Because of the septic field?
Yeah, the septic field can't drain.
Well, do you have to, I mean, where I live here, we have these wonderful turkey mounds all over the place.
Well, yeah, you'll keep building up mounds higher and higher. Maybe you could do it that way.
Okay. It seems to me that just understand.
Your point is valid, Linda. I think it does merit. I've only had a brief conversation with I keep forgetting his name, our number one guy on Captiva for doing sewer. Somebody help me. Who is that?
Him shoot.
Yeah, him shoot. Yeah, I've had just a brief conversation with him shoot about it, and he said, well, you know, they're not going to drain, so you'll just have to keep elevating them, you know, as the water table goes up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it seems like we should just sort of understand at a high level the economics of that kind of.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would agree with that, Linda.
And okay.
That question is helpful.
Hey, Jay,
Yes.
This is John. I didn't think you'd want stormwater going into a wastewater treatment plant.
You wouldn't.
You don't.
But they allow it or on Sanibel, or it just happens.
You know, not sure how to answer that.
I know how to answer it.
Okay.
They're not supposed to be doing it, and they don't allow it. People are doing it to avoid their properties flooding, and it is clearly a priority of Sanibel to reduce that from happening. And they're trying to tackle that issue because they've had serious flooding. And so people are trying to protect their homes. And, you know, you just open up those drains and it assists doing so. But it also puts strain on the sewer system. So
yeah, it may be I underemphasize that point, but if Sanibel could really stop this happening, then maybe we would not have all these incremental costs from Sanibel.
Yeah.
That would be part of what this working group would be tackling, I would assume.
Yeah.
And part of the question is this parallel system for Captiva, which may not be as much required if you reduce the stormwater going into the system. I think there is a value of having redundancy in the system. Not just a single pipe to Donax, but redundancy if there's a problem with a hurricane or some other issue. But then the question is who pays for that redundancy if it's not totally because of Captiva. So, I mean, these are the issues that have to be worked out more clearly than we have in the past. There are some people, I think Marguerite is one of them, she's not with us today, that has some experience with septic systems that she believes can withstand sea level rise and are not as expensive. But we'd have to look at that also. So there's still a lot of issues here, but what we have now is the costs. We know what the costs are. We don't know if we need all the projects that cause those costs to be that high, but at least we have a starting point at this point.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay.
Any other questions for Jay? Okay. Next thing on the agenda was the Development Committee. Marguerite is chairing that committee. She is in Germany at this point. I know she's been working with Ken Gudaham to produce a funding development project for the panel. And I would ask that we wait till September when Marguerite is back, since she's the chair of the committee, to review with us what her plans are for fundraising. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing is on the agenda, we did nominating committee. Again, anybody interested in serving on the panel should get their resume to Ken Goodham on that. Next thing on the agenda is D&O insurance update. Ken, do you have an update on that?
Yes. And what unfortunately is becoming an almost annual exercise, our D&O coverage got canceled and is being supposedly renewed by the same carrier with more paperwork and questions. However, the coverage ends tomorrow and they have yet to get me a new policy or invoice. So I'm going to start pushing them a little bit harder. We went through a bunch of calls and exchanges last week. I also have 2 other quotes in the works, since I don't trust that these folks will come through on time. But unfortunately, that necessitates a whole new round of questionnaires. So we will be right up to the wire in terms of maintaining our coverage. I have been assured that that will happen, but
Okay, Ken, it is vital that that does happen. We have people on the panel who are, speak their minds and do what they feel is in the interest of Captiva. And it's vital that we have D&O insurance. So if for some reason you don't get it, don't feel comfortable that it's renewed by the date that it needs to be renewed by, please let me know. And we will do whatever we need to do to get either that policy or an alternative policy in by the date that we need to have it in effect by.
which is this week.
Okay, so please.
I mean, I got a response from one of the other quotes at 6 o'clock last night that I haven't had time to respond to yet. That'll be done as soon as the meeting's over. And then I will have a follow-up with our current carrier to find out what the problem is. Because we were supposed to have gotten something by the weekend and did not.
Okay, please let me know and I will let the panel know. And I'm sure the panel wants to know that the D&O insurance is effective. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on the D&O insurance from anyone on the panel? You're all ready to resign if we don't get D&O.
What's that cost? What's the cost on that?
Last annual premium was $1,750. We expect that because it's insurance, it will go up.
1,700?
1,700.
Yeah, 1,700.
So it's not exorbitant. The trouble is, because of the complicated structure of the panel and its sponsor and the name of the sponsor, meaning the Property Owners Association, that is a big red flag.
Okay.
The minute you say that, they think you're an HOA and your liabilities are much higher. So we always have to keep talking them off the ledge on, no, we are not an HOA. No, we do not have members.
Okay.
So on and so forth. So it's resolvable, but they seem to be dragging their feet every time we go through this. And like I said, it's been almost every year for the last 8 years now.
Mm.
Okay, well, just get it done or let us know if you can't, okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any comments from the audience? Any more that we haven't covered?
There are not. I
Okay.
did want to point out one thing on the financials, just so that people are aware of it. We had 2 large contributions that were earmarked for Protect Captiva. So you'll notice our revenue was noticeably higher in the past month, but that was then passed through to Protect Captiva. So that's not money that stayed in our bank account.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There was an example where after the last or an update before that, there were 2 contributions to Protect Captiva that was sent to the panel for Protect Captiva. One was for $10,000. The other was for $25,000. That's
Wow.
That's the kind of generosity we're getting from the community. Are there any comments or thoughts from the panel members before we adjourn?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll
There be 5 seconds. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
And
David.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
David.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
David. Right.